to go live every day at noon because I have been finding that once a week the topics get really long, and I feel like it's better to break them down into little bite-sized chunks. So thanks for joining in. If you have questions or something, just post them in the comments, and I will do my best to get to them. And if for some reason I don't get to them while we're live, I'll go back and address it after the fact. That's what I've been doing with the ones that I don't catch as we're going live. This week, the topic that I want to talk about is energy, and the reason why I feel like that's so important is because the number one reason that people reach out to me, sit in my office, give me a call, however they connect with me, is because they have low energy. And this is beyond like, hey, I need to get more sleep, or I need to take a nap, or I've got little kids and this is a season in my life where I'm just kind of tired. This is that soul sucking, suck the life out of me tired that doesn't go away, and you have this thought in your mind like, hey, is something wrong? So I want to just I want to nerd out a little bit this week and talk about something called the energy production cycle, citric acid cycle. Some of you might remember it as the Krebs cycle. I think that's a fairly older name for it, so maybe I'm dating myself there. But anyway, what it is it's a way that your body makes energy. If you flash back to the science classes that you had where energy is made in the mitochondria or powerhouse of the cell, what happens is inputs come into this, and at the end you spit out something called ATP. It's the form of energy that runs our body, and every time you spin the wheel on this Krebs cycle or citric acid cycle, you produce 32 units of energy. Now, if you're not doing that right and you don't have the right inputs, you default to the lactic acid cycle. Or if you're out running really fast and you can't keep up, you default too. And that's why your muscles burn when you run. But if you're feeling like that and you're not running, you might be like, hey, I'm just really fatigued and I can't do this. You might be missing some of those inputs. And so instead of making 32 units of energy every time you spin the wheel in that citric acid cycle, you make 2 units when you, or 32 units in the Krebs cycle, you make 2 units in the lactic acid cycle. So what you end up doing is producing a lot less energy, and it makes you feel really tired. So let's talk about, I talk about these all the time because I think they're super important. There are 4 things that inputs that I think are really important. And the reason that I'm focusing on these 4 is because these are 4 that a lot of people are deficient in. And so I wanted to talk about them. Number 1, magnesium. How many times have you heard that you need a lot of magnesium? Well, I've run a lot of micronutrient testing where I look at people's nutrient levels. And furthermore, magnesium and RBC magnesium, which is really the gold standard on how to test magnesium, is part of every lab panel that I run. So if you're not running it as an RBC, most doctors run it as a serum, and it's not super reliable. So it needs to be an RBC magnesium. And when you look at that time and time and time again, you'll see most people are functionally low, meaning that they don't have the ideal or optimal amount of it. So they may not flag as like, hey, they're grossly deficient and it's a medical emergency, but what it tells us is they don't have the amount that they need to enough to be a good input into that energy production cycle. So magnesium is the first one I want to talk about. Why is it so important? It's a cofactor in a whole bunch of chemical reactions that run that energy production cycle. So it also helps you relax your muscles. So muscle tightness is one of the things. How many people are running around with like really tight muscles? And what if your magnesium's low? You can stretch and do all these things, but you don't have enough of the muscle relaxer. How about if your blood pressure's running a little bit high? Magnesium relaxes and dilates things. So it can be a huge part of naturally optimizing blood pressure. So I think that's worth the conversation. What about bowel movements too? People that are deficient in magnesium, sometimes that smooth muscle in the bowel isn't relaxed enough to allow healthy elimination. So there's so many reasons why proper magnesium is so important. and a lot of people are deficient on it. So what's one of the things you can do? One of the things you can do is up your game on fruits and vegetables. That's where most of your magnesium is going to be found. So lots of greens, lots of magnesium. A lot of it is found in fruit, and even though you don't want to be eating bukus of fruit because of the sugar content, you do want to be eating some because of the magnesium. In fact, one of my tastiest favorites is dried apricots. Have a ton of magnesium, and they can be part of a good like homemade trail mix kind of thing. I wouldn't sit down and eat a whole bag of them, but when they're worked in with some nuts and maybe some shredded unsweetened coconut, things like that, that balance out the carbohydrate load. And then speaking of carbohydrates, magnesium helps with carbohydrate metabolism. So there's been studies that show an inverse relationship, or when magnesium is low, blood sugar tends to be higher. So having optimal levels of magnesium is good for healthy blood sugar regulation and control as well. So I hope that gave you something to think about this week. We're going to break down, there's 3 more that are really important. And I picked the ones that are really important and that a lot of people are deficient in, because I think those are the ones that are really relevant to you. And if you follow me, I have a link in my link bio, which is lnk.bio/DRJENI. And in that link, there is, and I'll put that link in the chat as well. There's a link to go to my Fullscript dispensary, and you can look for a product called MitoCore. And as we're talking this week, one of the things I want to connect you with is one of my favorite supplements that has a combo of all of these things that are designed to provide good support for not only healthy magnesium levels, but energy support. It's called MitoCore because it supports mitochondria, which is where this energy is made. So I hope you found that helpful. Chime in with any questions you have, and we will talk tomorrow about the next thing that is really important in the production of energy.